Okay. All right, recording has started. I'm going to pull my reference materials up and we'll dive in. So just to get started here and kind of explain a little bit of how things might be a little different today than if you were, normally running a game. I'm going to be just kind of talking a little bit more at the camera and giving some instructions on how I'm doing things and how I'm rolling things, stuff like that. Just FYI, we're going to be going a little bit more slowly than I would if I was normally running it. Part of that's just me trying to be deliberate and kind of show what I'm doing. The other part is that I haven't ran the Bleakness in about a year. So I'll be a little bit slow for that reason as well. Cool. So give me 1 second here. I'm just finishing up pulling my resources. Cool. Okay.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. I was just saying hi, Tommy. I don't know if we've met before, but
no,
yeah, I don't think you guys have.
We have not played together before. It's nice to meet you. Are you the artist?
Yeah, I do music.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I realize now you two have been in pretty much like of all the campaigns I've ran, it's shocking that you two haven't been in the same one. But yeah,
really? Yeah,
these are two of my most common players that show up in my campaigns. We had 3 other players who were invited, and they were all supposed to be here, but someone had a concussion today. Somebody was sick, and somebody had a really bad day at work. So we've got a smaller group, but I think it's going to be good. I actually like running the Bleakness for 2-3 people. I say in the book that I recommend between 2 and 5 players. I really think that 3 is kind of that sweet spot. It's good with a small group. It doesn't have any balance issues if you go up or down from that. But personally, I think, the more intimate setting, the fewer people, lets you really get in a little bit more to the kind of the horror background of it. Cool. So
quick question, Spencer.
Yeah.
For this stream, can I send it in any way to like Austin or anyone else? How would I share the stream?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm not sure exactly what the turnaround will be, but sometime next week, I will have this posted on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'll send the link out. Everybody will have access.
Nice.
So if you see what just happened and my camera freezes like that, if that keeps happening here, I'm probably going to end up turning my camera off.
Okay.
There's some setting I have wrong on my camera that I need to fix, but today's not the day to do it. All right. So I want to start by kind of giving the session 0 talk, especially because this is something that we're streaming and we're talking to other people. And, there's other people in here who haven't experienced any of the Bleakness yet. And that is that this is a very mature game. This is a horror game, and it's on Drive-Thru RPG. It's gotten the adult tag, and that's definitely deserved. There's a lot of graphic gore descriptions, a lot of psychological horror. Generally, in most run-throughs of the Bleakness, you're going to have a large assortment of violence and violent descriptions against men, women, and children, and animals. You're going to have pretty intense gore descriptions sometimes. You're going to have a lot of themes of mental illness, including psychosis. You're going to have effects that cause suicide. A lot of things that are potentially triggering. So I just encourage everyone to, watch at their own risk. If these are things that you think could potentially bother you, this might not be the game for you. There's a lot of things going on here. With that said, I know that each of my players have already, been talked about this, and they're, you're good with the content that we've got. So we're gonna dive right in. Couple things that's worth talking to the audience about, though, in case you haven't had a chance to read any of the Bleakness yet. This isn't a traditional game in a lot of ways. For one, character creation will take us about 2 minutes total. We'll get through it really fast. We'll build characters. It's all statless, so there's not really a whole lot of rolling on the characters. It's just randomizing a few small things, and we'll get right into the game. And there goes my video again. All right, I'm just going to turn my video off. We're going to get right into the game pretty quickly. The Bleakness is experiential. It's not so much about winning. Most of the time, things don't end well in the Bleakness. Characters die quite frequently. It's a game that's about survival. You're trying to get as far along as you can. You're trying to see and learn as much as you can. Nobody's going to see all of the Bleakness, and very few people are going to have a victorious outcome. So with that said, let's get right into creating our characters. So I believe both of you have printed out character sheets. Cool. So there's basically lines on there that you can fold it up. It should, once you're done filling it out, kind of look like a table tent.
Is this right?
Yep. Yeah. It's, and then you can put it so it stands up.
Okay.
Yep. So it doesn't really matter so much when you're playing virtually, but the point of that is that when you're in person, you're around a table, you can have your secret information, on your side, hidden to the rest, and you can have some public information that everybody can see quite easily. So what we're going to start with here is setting players' character attributes. So in the Bleakness, there are 2 attributes. There are challenges and there are roles. So the challenge is something that makes your character unique. This could be a obvious external thing, or it could be something that's more mental, or something that they have to deal with, something that they have to carry with them as they journey. And their role is kind of who you were before the events of the game started, who you were in your village. These are isolated villages. So most people are farmers, cow herds, maybe a hunter, maybe a ranger type, but very meager existences here in the far north of the Bleakness. All right.
Okay.
So
Nice.
what I'm going to do is message each of you through Discord what I roll for each of these. So give me 1 second while we do that. There'll be a little bit of dead air. Connor, I'm going to send you yours first.
Okay.
So for the audience, page 12 and 13 of the manuscript is where you'll find this. This is going to be really the basis of who your character is before the players take over them. These roles and challenges are meant to be at least somewhat unique. You're not supposed to have multiple people in a party at once that have the same thing. And as you see more and more players come in and out, if you have a longer campaign, more players, you'll see some interesting interactions between them. All right. Okay. Connor, I'm sending your challenge over to you now. So there should be a spot on your character sheet to jot that down.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to roll for his role. This is basically who the other players will know him as from his background in the village that they're starting in. And I'll talk a little bit more about that starting scenario here in a minute as we get into the actual playing of the game.
Am I rolling that?
Nope, I'm rolling it now.
Okay.
Or if you want to, you could roll me a D10 and I'll tell you what you get.
Rolling. We got a 6.
All right, I'll drop that in for you. All right. And there's your roll.
Cool.
All right, Tommy. Here, I'll have you roll as well. Roll me a D10.
1d10.
Mm-hmm.
2.
All right. Okay. So for the audience here, 2 was actually the same thing I rolled for Connor's character on this. So I'm just going to go down to the next result because that one's already taken, just to give us some differences here.
I take it Connor and I should not be looking at the digital manual
No,
at this time.
no, you should not. All right, Tommy, give me another D10 roll, this time for your roll.
9.
Okay. Okay, I'm sending that over to you as well. Cool.
I take it that there's a first letter missing.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It's in the manuscript. I don't know why it's not copying over, but yes, that is correct. All right. So those are the 2 most important things about your character. The Bleakness is a statless RPG, so we're not rolling for stats. Everyone's assumed to be roughly ordinary and relatively comparable to each other. We'll talk more about resolution, resolving challenges and things like that as we get to them. The last thing that we're going to do here is starting equipment. So you'll find an equipment spot on your character sheets. Connor, I'm going to start with you while Tommy catches up here. Well, everyone starts with a couple items that are the same. You start with 3 rations. So you'll want to jot those down. Cold weather clothes. A backpack. A sleeping bag. And a water skin.
Can you repeat them again? Sorry.
Yep, no problem. That's 3 rations, cold weather clothes, a backpack, a sleeping bag, a water skin. And then after that, we'll talk about kind of the next thing. There's some random items that are given out too.
Okay.
All right. Cool. So we are going to now go and give you each a random helpful item. So for the audience, towards the end of the book in the appendices, I believe that is, where is it here? Page 39. We have a chart of random mundane items. So I'm going to have each of you roll a d20 for me.
4.
13.
Okay. All right. So technically these items that you have, these next ones are secret items. You don't have to show the party what you have. So I'm going to send these in chat secretly. They're not scandalous. They're not super interesting usually. But in general, information in the Bleakness is treated as private and secret until it's not, until the player chooses not to. And you said 13, Tommy?
Yep. Lucky number 13 for the road.
All right.
Spencer, I'm a bit confused about what there's a number you put in here.
Ignore the number. That's
okay. No worries.
What I'm doing is copying out of a document. And
oh, I see. That's what I rolled.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
and it's sometimes it's you know how copying out of PDFs, it can be very imprecise what you're actually copying. Cool. So when I'm copying and sending you stuff, try to ignore if it's missing the first letter, or if it has a number next to it, or some nonsense like that.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So you've both got your starting items. You've got your characters rolled, And that is pretty much everything that's on my end. So what I want you each to spend a minute doing is make a character name. Make a character name, and if you want to, a physical description of your character. Yeah.
Are we all human, by the way? Is there something we should all be?
Yeah, so you are
Keeping in
human.
mind- okay.
I'll talk in just a second about that. Actually, that's a great point, Connor. I'm getting ahead of myself. This would be a good time for me to talk a little bit about the world and about the place that you are. So the Bleakness is a very simple, sort of dark ages type world. Technology is very simple and rudimentary. You live in a small village in the far north. There's not a whole lot of food. There's not a whole lot of resources here. As I mentioned before, pretty much everybody that you know is either a hunter, a farmer, or tends livestock. The only contact to the outside world that you have is through the road, which is a path that runs south to north, and your village is set right alongside of it. Now, what you know about the road has been taught to you from a young age by priests that travel up and down it. They taught you that in the beginning of the world, the road was God's first creation. It was built as a pathway to enlightenment and ultimately to heaven. And that humanity's purpose is to travel on the road. And that everyone, if they are ready and if they feel called to do so, should travel north upon the road to get as far as they can and be rewarded as such. Throughout your life, growing up here in your village, you've encountered travelers that have come from the south telling stories of their homes and the lives that they left to travel north. You know that there's a massive world out there, and that you've only seen a small part of it. The church has one rule that everybody follows, and it would just be impossible for you to even think that anyone could ever dare to break it. And that is that only priests can travel south on the road. Traveling south on the road would be a abomination. It would be something that would go against everything you've ever learned and stood for. If it means if traveling north means to strive for enlightenment, traveling south would be to turn your back on everything you've ever known.
Does that specifically apply to if we're walking north and we drop something like 2 steps back? Are we not allowed to walk back and get it, or is it more like traveling longer distances on the road south? Like
that's a great question. It's a great question, and it depends on who you ask. Much like we have different sects of religion here that disagree on small topics, different groups will argue and debate those sorts of questions. For example, you probably know people in the village who, if they were, around the road, if they needed to, go a mile or two into the woods or something like that to go forage or tend their livestock or something like that, they would never consider going south on the road to do that. They would merely go through the brush. Others don't think it's such a problem. So I think that usually most people, the way that they would look at it is, going back 10, 20 feet, no problem. But they probably wouldn't walk south for more than a minute or two.
Cool. Okay. I see. And to be clear, the road is not the only road. It's just, this is the road.
It's the only road you know of.
Or is it the only road? Oh, really? So everything else is just brush.
So your village, it's all that you've ever known. You've never traveled outside of it. Nobody has, except the people that leave to go up the road. So,
Okay.
all that is you've probably, just growing up in the area, you've traveled a few miles around. You've wandered around in the brush, but the only people that have ever come into the village have either been priests coming from the north or south or travelers coming from the south. And that's it. So if there are other roads, you've never seen them. The only thing except for your world, your village, is this road.
Cool.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So the immediate prologue before us starting our game is that for whatever reason, you have each decided that it's time to travel. It might be that your family doesn't have enough food to survive the winter. It might be that you've been preparing for a while and you feel spiritually called to travel on the road, that you're ready to take that step. Maybe it's something that you've always known that you wanted to do, and you're just right now ready to do it. But in general, things have been getting worse over the past few years. The village is in rough shape, and people leaving to travel the road is kind of a welcome sight for everyone. There's not enough food to go around, and things aren't looking too great. The winters have been long and the summer's short. So it's a little bit of it's always been this way, but now more than ever, it's a little bit of an event when somebody decides to go travel the road. So on the morning that you've decided to set off, the entire village has come out and just are all there and ready to send you on your way. Do you each want to introduce your characters and maybe give a brief description?
Yep. I can go first. So my character's name is Cormac. Average looking guy, maybe almost 6 feet tall, brown hair, brown eyes, not really a person that would stand out in a crowd. In the town, a lot of people know me as like a handyman. So I kind of like help out with like fixing tools and any kind of like gaps in walls, roofing, things like that. Because of that, my character feels like he's kind of like the de facto steward of the town, and so I think the reason that his purpose for going on the road would be to try and see if he can make a better life for the town.
Great. All right. Now that makes sense. Connor.
Hello, my name is Torval. I'm a retired hunter and tanner. That was what I did when I was a little younger. Now I am the town drunkard. I kind of walk around talking about the good old days and, all that. I'm one of the shortest guys in the entire village, and quite stout at that, with quite the round tummy, and pretty short-tempered guy. But recently I got my ass kicked, and now I'm kind of trying to get back to my glory days and maybe get on the road and see if I can burn off some calories.
You really wanted to play a dwarf, it sounds like.
Yeah, I wanted to be a dwarf, but if we have to be human, then...
Well, technically, I mean, you could be, form of dwarf is, you could be a small
yeah,
person.
Sure. Yeah, I could be a spy. I'm not a small person. I'm a Danny DeVito-esque. You could think that's, around that type of height and temperament.
Nice.
All right. Wonderful. All right. So Torval and Cormac, also Tommy, like the reference. Good job. Cormac and Torval are setting out. So let me kind of give you an overview of how things work. So this is a role-playing game that's based around traveling on the road and wilderness survival. So a couple of things are going to happen. The days are divided into shifts. Each 24 hours is divided into 3 shifts, roughly 8 hours each. So these are two shifts in the day and 1 shift at night. So basically what's going to happen is each shift, I'm going to ask you if you're going to travel, if you're going to rest, or if you're going to forage. Theoretically, there's, other things that you could do, but those are generally the three options. So traveling, you're going to head up the road, you're going to keep on walking, and we're going to see what happens. Resting, you'll rest and recuperate, obviously, and foraging is to look for food and resources. So that will get more and more important as the game goes on, as the food stores that you start with start to become depleted, and depending on how you roll and how things go on your encounters, we'll just have to see what exactly happens to you and what your needs are. Perfect. So let's get started here. So I'm assuming day one, it's bright in the morning, you're ready to go. I'm assuming that you are, in fact, going to travel.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm rearing to go.
All right. So I'm going to go a little bit slowly here. And I also just got the notification that my food's a few minutes away. So I'll have to get up in a second and grab that. But to start with, on page 26 is a master encounter sheet. So whenever you're starting, whenever the players are journeying on the road, that's the first thing. You'll want to have that up and ready to go. Maybe stick a bookmark in that page, and you're going to roll on that chart on a D20. So I'm rolling my D20, and I get a 4. So what we're going to do is, oh, and there's my food. I'll be right back, everybody. Sorry.
Good. We'll edit this part out.
All right, folks. Apologies for the delay.
This episode of the Bleakness has been brought to you by DoorDash.
Do you have a promo code for that?
If you can type in Bleakness, it may or may not give you anything, but you can always type it in.
There you go. Can always try.
Right.
All right. So just back to my explanation here of how the encounter system works. So you roll your D20 and consult your master encounter chart in page 26. So I rolled a 4. So we're going to go and click on Wilderness here. The PDF is hyperlinked, so it gets you right back to where you need to go. So this tells us that our encounter falls into this chart, and it gives the rules for how this chart works. So this chart specifically, it is something that we're going to roll a D10 on, and then we're going to go and roll another encounter, and we're going to kind of combine the two. So this is basically going to be like a weather change or something that happens to the environment that happens in addition to something else. And most charts in the Bleakness, you can only encounter something once. There are exceptions, but in this case, we're going to roll a D10. So I got a 1. So we're going to take this result. I'm going to highlight it to show that it's been used. And then we're going to go and we're going to add this to something else. So we're going to go back. Page 26. I'm going to roll again. Okay. We rolled an 11. We're going to roll a D20 on this chart. Okay. And we rolled a 14. All right. So now I'm going to take these two and just on the fly kind of craft them together. If I can actually find my highlighter. There we go. All right. So as you travel on the road, it's a gray fall day. It's starting to get colder. You're not quite at the temperatures when you start to see snow, but you feel like just a couple more weeks and it might start to happen. However, about halfway through the morning, the skies start to brighten. You get a really beautiful, brief, warm ray of sun as the skies clear. And it illuminates the pathway or the road ahead just a little ways. And you see little bits of white dotting it as far as you can see up to the horizon. As you get closer, it looks like there's bones from thousands of animals, mostly small creatures like rabbits, deer, maybe some rodents, things like that, just littering across it.
Sketchy.
I would turn to you. You're the hunter.
Yeah, I kind of go up and inspect it a little closer to try to determine how old the corpse is.
Yeah, so what you find is that none of the bones are fresh. So it's not like there's no corpses. It's not like you have any with rotting flesh on them.
Okay.
But there are a whole range of ages, it seems. Like some they're completely bleached and they're starting to kind of disintegrate a little bit. They've clearly been there for, potentially even years, bleaching in the sun. But some still seem like they've got some moisture in them. They're not dry and brittle yet. So it seems that whatever's caused this, it wasn't just one thing. It's been going on for a while.
Well, I turn to Cormac and say, like, there's a predator around here. It's been out here for a minute.
Is it a big predator?
I mean, from the looks of it, these are like smallish animals, but the quantity of bones makes me think that it doesn't have its own natural predators. So it's clearly the apex out here. So depending on what kind of weapons you have, we might be screwed. Yeah, I used to be a hunter, but since then, I'm just a fat old man.
Well, I lent my tools to my neighbor while I was gone, so I don't have any kind of weapons. I have this flask, and I have some other mundane stuff, but nothing that you would consider a weapon.
Oh, in that case, we're probably best off continuing and watching our backs.
Yeah, I would agree. Is there a travel pace for this, Spencer, or is it just like a normal pace the entire time?
Yeah, it's a normal pace. You could force force a run, but I mean the way that shifts are used here, it would basically be I would say that you could travel twice the distance, but you'd burn yourself out in the shift and you'd need to rest.
Okay.
So at this point, like I said, it's about halfway through the morning. Do you plan to continue traveling through the end of the day until it starts to get dark?
I'm for it.
Or if we find a shelter that we could go in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a building or an abandoned something, so we don't have to be out in the open.
Okay. Sounds good. Speaking to the audience again here, while they were talking and role playing through the last kind of environmental encounter, I was already preparing and rolling the next one and getting everything ready. So as you travel, the bones go on for about 3 to 4 miles. As you walk, the crunching of the brittle bones beneath your feet kind of fades into the background, and you kind of feel a little bit lonely when it's gone. It became strangely omnipresent. You continue to travel, and the nice warm weather, the nice sun break, it ends after a few hours as well, and you kind of keep trudging through pine forest, just exactly like the one that surrounded your village. Nothing really breaks the monotony until pretty late in the afternoon. Let's see who it affects. Okay. Torval starts to just kind of, you're getting tired. You're getting way more tired than you'd expect. Your pack feels just, it feels suddenly heavier.
Oh, this shit is heavy. I might have to lay down.
I can hold it for you if you want.
I couldn't ask you that. I just met you.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have a weapon or anything. I have my own pack, so I mean, it's not that much to carry another pack. I can put it on my front, so I have a pack in the front, pack in the back.
Well, I would appreciate that. An old man would thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'll take his pack. And I guess we'll keep walking. It's not nighttime yet, right?
No, it's not quite, but it's getting pretty close. Cormac takes the pack and you notice it's kind of open a little bit. And sitting right at the top, you see a large book that catches your eye.
Cool. Do I see the title, or is it or anything like that, or any?
No, there's no title. It's hand bound.
Okay.
And I should say, when I say large, the cover, like the size of the book is large. It's not a thick book. It's just a large cover size.
Got it. I would kind of, as we're walking, I would turn to Torvald and be like, "Hey, so see there's a book here at the top. Are you a scholar by chance, or a reader?"
I got to be honest with you. I have no idea how that got there.
Yeah, you've never heard or seen of this book in your life, Torvald. So
yeah, but Torvald was considering for a second, playing it off, as if he was some kind of wizard or something like that. It kind of flashes over his eyes, but he hasn't had enough alcohol in him to actually, go down that route. So he's too tired. So he's fully honest.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's some weird things happen. These are strange times. Would it be okay if I kind of pull it out and we kind of just look at it, or do you want to wait till we sit down for camp?
Well, if the book got into my bag without me knowing it, it might have something to do with the bones we saw back there. So it might be a good idea to not open it, or open it when we're a little safer. So that makes sense.
Cool. I would stop and put his pack down and kind of tighten the top down a little bit so that no other foreign stuff just can fall into his pack. And I put his pack on my front. So I have my pack on my back, and then I just kind of loop his straps on my front. So his pack's on my front. So nothing should be able to get past my sights that's for stuff to fall into his bag. And I kind of relay that to him. I'm like, "Hey, well, I'll watch your bag for you, make it nice and tight."
I trust you. I trust you.
Awesome. Cool. And then I guess we just keep walking.
You mentioned earlier that you were hoping to keep an eye out for some sort of a shelter, a place to spend the night. So at this point, you keep walking. It's starting to get dark, and you still haven't spotted anything that looks like a good place to stop for the night. So you kind of are getting to the point where you have to make a decision. Do we just push on through the night, or do we stop?
I asked Torvald, "How sober are you right now?"
Torvald kind of begrudgingly kind of looks back, pulls a little flask out of his back pocket and hands it over to Cormac. Says, "I don't know, not as much as you though, but we should fix that."
Okay.
Which is also an invitation to pitch a tent.
Okay.
Make a campfire.
Yeah, I'd say we go up to the brush, just I don't know, maybe 100 paces, off the road.
Yeah, you're able to find a small clearing relatively fast, even in the twilight with reduced visibility. Great. All right, so you're able to make a little camp. There's plenty of firewood nearby, and it's relatively easy to make yourself somewhat comfortable. Do you in fact choose to light a fire?
How cold is it?
It's pretty cold, but you are, you have winter clothes, and you have, pretty warm sleeping bags. It'd be a lot more comfortable with a fire, but you're not currently at risk of dying of hypothermia or something like that if you don't light one.
Yeah, let's I guess I would turn to the hunter. Like, well, do you think it's safe to light a fire? Is it better or not better?
Torvald kind of like lifts up his pants a little bit, stands up, and kind of does a little bit of like a walk around the perimeter. And then he decides to take a leak while he's walking around the perimeter, and he makes a big circle around it. And kind of comes back and says, like, yeah, I think the coast is clear. We're going to be safe.
Perfect.
Clearly, that's the kind of deterrent that it's going to make all the difference here. All right, great. So again, speaking to the audience, the party has decided to rest for the night. So they're not going to incur any exhaustion issues or anything like that if they continue traveling. But one thing that does happen when the party rests at night, I roll a check to see if they encounter any danger while they're resting. So
before I rest,
Mhm.
Spencer, can I take a swig out of my flask, my wineskin?
Yeah, you can. And I'll get into that in a minute on what that does exactly. So basically, to check for danger while they're camping, what we do is we just roll on the master encounter sheet. And if they roll a danger encounter, they encounter danger while they're resting. Otherwise, we just ignore any result on that table. So they do not roll danger. So the night passes uneventfully. Cormac takes a swig and drinks one of the quote unquote servings or uses of his flask. This reduces despair. So this will reduce despair by, oh my gosh, it's right here. So I believe that is 1. It reduces despair by 1.
Yeah, that's what you sent.
Yep.
Me.
So we haven't talked about despair and hunger yet, but I'm going to get to that now. So in the morning, the new day starts, and this is when we start tracking our despair and hunger. These are our resources that we really care about in the Bleakness. A lot of the danger and a lot of the tension comes from these two scores ticking up. So at the beginning of the day, each character is going to add 1 hunger and 1 despair. So hunger, obviously, this just means, you haven't eaten yet, you haven't consumed a ration, you're getting hungry. Despair, it's a combination of traumatic events, but also just the wear and tear of being out in the road, being out in the elements. So some of the effects that we talked about earlier, the challenges that players might start with when we rolled what Tommy and Connor's characters were, some of those actually mean they start with hunger and despair. Because those are private and personal for both of them, we don't know, like as a public group right now, what each of their hunger and despair is at. Even though the game just started and this is the only time I've told them to add to that, they may have started with some already. So what I'm going to have them do is I'm going to have each of you send me a message with your current hunger and despair after that plus 1 to each. And in Tommy's case, after you used your wine to reduce your despair by 1. Now, for the audience, there's a lot of ways to do this. When you're playing virtually, it's really a lot easier than when you're playing in person to have these checks privately. What I actually like doing when we're in person is I have everybody close their eyes and then hold up fingers for how many they have in each. So I say, all right, Everyone, give me your hunger. Hold up fingers for how many hunger you have. Things like that. So I'm just waiting on those coming in here.
So we're adding one. How many?
1 hunger and 1 despair.
Okay.
And Tommy, to answer the question you just sent me, I'm just going to answer it publicly. Tommy asked if, theoretically in the future, if he wanted to drink his wine, could he use multiple uses at once to get rid of more despair at once? Yeah, that's not a problem. You can use them all at once. You can use them one at a time, however you want.
Oh, then I'm gonna drink all of it the night before.
Cool. That's totally good.
So I will update my thing then.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Cool. So yeah,
Torval
send me what you've got after that.
Torval is upset that Cormac drank all the wine that night.
That's funny. So we actually have Connor just reached a threshold. So I want to talk about thresholds on these. Actually, sorry, not Connor. We had a threshold reached before the wine was drunk, but I want to just talk through thresholds. So I'm being a little bit less picky right now, just because of the format we're playing in, with this being kind of an explainer about keeping information secret. So I just want to give you two a heads up on that. I might talk a bit about your hunger and despair publicly here. So someone just hit a threshold. Now, what this means is they've hit a number on their hunger or their despair that means something changed, some way they interact with the game changed. For hunger, this is 5 and 12. For despair, it's 5, 8, and 12. So these are steps where something happens. Now, the ref should know what happens at those thresholds. The players should really only know once they hit them. So I'm going to message the player right now and let them know what happens now that they've reached that threshold.
Question, you said 5, 8, and 12, but on the hunger and despair on the character sheet only goes to 10 for both.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. I will have Alex fix that tomorrow. Shoot, that is a problem. I think what happened there was an old playtest version that did have it at 10 for the final one. And the issue there is that we found in testing that 10 was a little bit too low. It was hit too quickly. Now, what I will say is, it's not a huge issue because you always are going to have cases where it goes higher, especially for despair. Like you can potentially keep going up beyond that. But I'm actually kind of frustrated myself for not catching that. Thanks, Tommy. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
We'll have that fixed in a day or two. And when everyone can go and re-download the character sheet, they'll find it's fixed.
And I'm sure by the time you're watching the, people.
Yeah, by the time this goes out as a recording, it'll already be fixed. All right. So I'm messaging one of you really quickly about what happens. All right. So, what is the party doing? Are you going to set out or forage or rest? What's your plan?
I'm good to go. I asked Torval, are you good to carry your pack, or are you still a little like shaken from yesterday?
Torval starts to kind of rub his stomach and be like, I feel like shit. I don't know if I can go on. Like, I might need to eat real quick.
Okay. Let's if you want to eat, I can go and take a look at your book, and we can see what's in this book and how it got in your pack.
Yeah, why don't you do that? You can open the book, and I'm gonna go eat.
Okay. I put the book down, kind of on the ground, kind of, and not in my lap because God knows what would happen. And then I like slowly like open the cover, and what do I see when I open the book,
Yeah.
or what
So
happens when I open the book?
first, I'll just say, this won't take a whole shift. This will take just a few minutes. Torval eating a ration, that will reduce his hunger by 2. So rations are how you reduce your hunger. Cormac, looking at this book, there's it seems like a short field guide. There's quite a few empty pages, and just kind of some notes in the margins and some drawings. It seems that someone had spent quite a bit of time documenting butterflies and like their life cycle stages. So there's let me get to the page here.
Are butterflies rare in this world, or do we see them fairly often every spring? Or I guess, what do we know about butterflies as normal people?
You have heard that you've heard of butterflies. You've probably seen 1 or 2 in your life. They're not very common, especially this far north. But you know that the priests of the road consider them to be something special. They're considered to be a little bit holy. And you've never really been up close to one before. You've probably seen them once or twice. You may have seen a traveler with maybe a maybe like one encased in amber, or a pinned one or something like that they kept as a good luck charm. But an actual real life butterfly is incredibly rare. So this book seems to detail their effects and how they act in some of their life cycles. So practically speaking, in game, if you encounter a butterfly, you'll be able to use this book to determine what it does and exactly how it works.
Okay.
Cool. While you're eating, I kind of like make that commentary to you, and say, I actually asked you, like, have you seen any butterflies before?
Once when I was much younger, I was out hunting, and I thought I saw a butterfly, but it was just a flower, and I was very drunk.
Okay.
So no.
The longest way to say no I've ever heard.
Torval's got a long-winded way about him.
Awesome.
Right.
Okay. Cool. I will then say that. Awesome. Cool. Great. Let's put this book back in your bag. And are you feeling better now that you have a full stomach?
Yeah, I'm feeling much better.
Perfect. I'll give you back your pack, and then I'll say, are you ready to head back?
Yep.
All right.
Torval agrees.
All right. So the morning shift, you set out on the road. It's another gray fall day. A stiff wind blows, and most of the morning is relatively uneventful. The landscape stays relatively the same. Monotonous pine trees line the road on either side. You get really excited when finally you see something that looks a little bit different and out of place. On the side of the road, you see a large stone table. Its surface is weathered, but it looks like at one point it had some sort of carvings on it that have been, by wind and water eroded to the point of indiscernibility. But around it are littered bones, clearly human bones. There are a ton of fingers and toes and hands and feet. There's a few arms and legs, and 1 or 2 skulls seem to be peeking out from the tall grass around it. On the table sits a large, heavy stone axe.
Well, Torval's interested immediately.
I'm like, yeah, I'll stand right here. You go ahead. If you want to go get the axe. Is it a statue, or is it like the axe like separate? Like, can it be removed?
It can be removed. It's it weighs quite a bit though.
Is there a lot of blood?
Nope, there's no blood.
Oh.
Well, Torvald kind of like waddles over, kind of stepping on some bones, trying to step over some human bones, but he doesn't really give a shit. And he kind of goes up to it, kind of inspects the axe, walks around the table, and then like looks over at Cormac and kind of like tries to beckon Cormac to come closer because he's a little afraid.
I take one step closer. I'm like, yes.
Torvald goes, all right, that's enough. And then goes to like grab the axe, but like hesitates and tries to see if there's any like little I don't know, like a booby trap or some kind of something. Does Torvald see anything?
You kind of stop and just kind of stare at the table, willing to see something to convince you not to touch the scary axe in the middle of the forest. Everything's dead quiet and you're focused in, and you see that the surface of the table it's almost completely smooth, aside from like those weathered remains of carvings and like some nicks and cuts. Everything is so smooth and bare that it would be impossible for anything to be hiding there.
Okay. Torvald feels confident that he can grab the axe and even pick it up, so he puts his strength into that and
Great.
goes for it.
Yeah. So you pick it up without any trouble.
Okay.
It's quite heavy.
So I,
Kind of like
So-
yeah, try to heave it on me, but
For game purposes, how we track encumbrance on your character sheet is, you have your slots, you have your encumbrance slots. If something is both large and heavy, which this axe definitely qualifies, it takes up 3 slots.
encumbrance slots. I don't know if we have those.
So yeah, so here, let me pull up the rule set here.
Do I just make one on here?
Yeah, so in your
Okay.
it's not something that you need to like mark off on your character sheet. You can have 10 items without having any ill effects on you. So this is going to count for 3 items basically.
Okay.
But like 3 rations doesn't count as 3 items, right?
So 3 rations, it does count as 3 separate items.
Oof. Okay.
Yep.
Wait, 1, 2. Okay, so then I'm definitely encumbered. Oh no, I'm not, because
I was gonna say you should be.
No,
because
I ate a ration, so now I'm 5, 6, 7. I'm at exactly 10. So is it
Okay.
10 and above or
over 10.
above 10? Over 10.
Yeah.
So 10, I'm okay.
Are the weather the winter clothes count as an object or not because we're wearing them?
You're wearing them. They're not in your inventory. They don't count.
Oh, good to know. Okay.
And the backpack, of course, is our actual inventory.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. That.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh no, I am encumbered. Because I have the extra ration. Can I just eat it real quick?
So
I can hold on to something for you actually, because I am not that encumbered at all.
You're okay?
I have.
Can I give?
Yeah, sleeping bag, water skin. The wineskin's gone. So yeah, I have 3 rations, a sleeping bag, and a water skin. So I only have 5 items. So I can take more stuff if you want.
Why don't you take my extra ration?
Just one?
Yeah, I just have an extra ration. I have my two rations. I mean, I'm
Okay.
just 1 over, so
I'll take one of your rations then.
okay.
nice.
All right. And I'm assuming that you choose to travel for the rest of the day, right?
Probably more confidently now that we have.
Now that you
Yeah, we
an
have an
axe.
axe.
All right. So throughout the day, the sky starts to turn a pure whites, and snow begins to lightly fall. The temperature drops about 10 degrees from where it was in the morning. This seems to be an unseasonably early snowfall, and these temperatures are pretty uncommon at this time of year. Doesn't really bode well for traveling further into the north. You thought you'd have at least another month before snowfall. The light is starting to fade, and you still have not seen any signs of civilization or really any good signs of shelter.
No fresh prints of like in the road of like other travelers.
Nothing.
Well, Torval wants to definitely rest and try to find a I mean, he's not so concerned about a safe place as much as he was, but he wants to eat potentially, or find a place that might allow us for some foraging for the next day, because it'd be nice to get some food.
Okay. So you want to like spend a little bit of time walking until you find a great spot to rest, basically.
For Torval, yeah, but he kind of looks at Cormac and asks, like, where do you want to pitch a tent? Like, what kind of place?
I don't want to be on the opposite side that we found the table on. So if it was on the right, I want to pitch on the left.
That's smart.
It was on the right.
Yeah. So then, yeah, we'll go out to the left, like 100 paces again. Once we find like a nice clearing, if we can, and then if there's a possible place to forage, then great.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Yeah, you're able to find a nice spot. A little cleared area that's right off the road, about 50 feet off.
Cool. Torval
right.
sets down his stuff.
Okay.
And Spencer,
Right.
I did message you about something.
Yeah, let me take a look here. Not really.
Okay, cool.
Great. All right. So the party makes camp for the night, and the night passes smoothly. Aside from a screeching owl giving you a little bit of a start, everything is quiet and normal. And you wake up the next morning feeling refreshed and ready to begin your journey anew. As always, it's +1 despair and +1 hunger. If you could each send me your numbers, that would be great.
And in the morning, I will eat a ration.
Great. Okay.
As will I.
Okay.
Should I subtract that ration from my inventory? The one that you ate?
No, I can subtract it from mine.
But you gave me one. Did you want that one back?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, do the party want to spend their first morning shift? Do you want to spend it foraging, or did you want to spend it traveling?
Getting low on food.
Yeah, probably foraging.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me find my chart for that. Okay. All right. Are you both foraging?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Torval keeps an eye out for a stream of water.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? I want you each to roll a d6 for me.
Yep. Oh.
2.
Okay. Unfortunately, you are unlucky and find no food this shift. You do find water though. You find a good fresh stream, are able to refill your water. Though I will say that in general, in this part of the world, in the environment of the bleakness, water is rarely a problem to find.
Okay.
Do you want to spend another shift foraging, or do you want to continue on?
Is this a stream that can be fished? Could Torval see if there's fish in this stream?
That's a great question. Yeah, you definitely could.
Okay, could we spend a shift potentially of me fishing?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I have
So-
my line hooks and fishing line.
Just to kind of talk to the audience again. So what Connor's suggesting now is a role-playing solution to a problem. And the way that we handle challenges and kind of checks in the bleakness is we just ask a question. Is this course of action to overcome a problem a realistic way to get a positive result? So we found a stream that, I've agreed does have fish in it. So Connor has the tools to do so. So I'm going to say that he is able to catch a fish. We don't need to do a roll for that. Because he's using his item, we're not going to do a foraging roll because there's other stuff going on here, and he's taking a full turn, or sorry, a full shift to do so. If you wanted to be a little bit harder on your players, you could say like, all right, you can roll a foraging check with maybe like a +2 or something like that. But I'm gonna just give him a pass on this, and I'm gonna say that you're able to catch one fish, which is going to be worth 2 rations.
Awesome.
All right. So that is the end of the day. Do you want to keep the same camp for the night?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Same thing as always. I'm going to roll and check and see how the night goes. All right. The night's quiet again. So you wake up having been fully refreshed. And as always, +1 to hunger and +1 to despair.
Gonna have to start dealing with despair soon. We got some food. That's good.
Yeah.
So we could eat both of those rations and get our hunger down like really low, if you even need to eat.
I'm actually good. I'm not too hungry.
I'll just eat one of those to bring me down back again really low.
Mhm.
And then yeah. All right. Message you.
Perfect. All right.
Disappear.
Great. So is the party continuing on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. So pretty early on into the day, you actually spot somebody on the road ahead. And to your surprise, they're actually walking towards you. They're walking to the south. So naturally, you're expecting it to be a priest. The only people that are permitted to do that. But as you get closer, you see that the man does not appear to be a priest. The grain man is kind of a little bent and slightly haggard. He waves and greets you warmly. Hello there, travelers.
Well, hello.
Hello.
I have no shame in what I do. I've traveled long, and I must turn back or die. I understand any action you might take. I just ask that you let me continue on my way.
Torval kind of like gets in, sort of steps in front of him a little bit and asks him, just, what did you see? Tell us, and we'll consider it.
I saw shadows in the trees. I saw my traveling companions turn into monsters. I couldn't continue anymore.
Show us what's in your pack.
He says gladly. He basically like opens his pack and just kind of dumps it into his arms, and he has one ration, and he has a book.
Is it the same book as ours?
No, this is a small journal.
Oh, like a personal journal?
Yep.
So no like knife or like forging tools or anything like that?
No, nothing like that.
Useless. Cool. Well, I don't want to take his only ration.
Yeah.
I turn to Torval and say, he's not causing us harm, so I think we can just let him be on his way, and we can continue on.
Torval nods and looks at the traveler and goes, see you around.
The man seems kind of surprised that you didn't punish him at all or have anything else to say. He nods solemnly and says, well, thank you, kind travelers, and please take this as a appreciation of your wonderful kindness. And he hands you the small book that was in his bag.
Thanks. I've always wanted to read someone else's diary.
So I'm gonna actually send you each a file. So I'm gonna talk to the audience about this. What I'm gonna send them is the travel journal that was a Kickstarter stretch goal. So now I do want to note to Torval and Cormac, this is not exactly what you find when you open it. So the file I'm going to be sending you is kind of like, it's what this would be if it wasn't defaced. So the text and all the pages of this book have been defaced and scrawled over with phrases like turn back, God looks upon us and scowls, we are killing the world, things like that. They seem like the writings of a madman in a very different hand than the travel journal has actually written it. So let me send you that file here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Just sent it to you, Tommy. Oh, if it would actually send. There you go. And Connor. So just speaking to the audience again, really quickly. There's a couple different ways that you can add the travel journal into your session of the Bleakness. I chose to just weave it into an encounter. This encounter that I rolled has the person potentially giving the travelers a travel journal. But the way it's written is that the journal, whatever text was there, has been so defaced it's illegible. You could also just have people start with the travel journal right at the beginning, but I like to try and weave it into an encounter like I did just there. So y'all can take a look at the travel journal and spend a few minutes on that, and we'll take a 5-minute break to give you guys some time. All right. You guys had a chance to read through most of it?
Yeah.
No, lie. I jumped a little bit when you came on.
Well, that's the goal. Get you in a little bit.
The stone slab that was referenced on day 16, is that the table we came across, or is that a different thing?
It's I'm not going to tell you if it's the same thing, but it sure looks like it from the drawing.
Right. I mean, if we were to compare it, would we think it was the same thing?
Yes, you would be relatively sure that it's the same thing.
Okay. You know, in the spirit of October, it's like we have a book. There's a book talks about lifting clothes, all this hocus pocus stuff.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right. Great.
Cool. So yeah, after we kind of get over ourselves of reading this horrible journal, I turned to Torval and say, "Hey, you ready? Just kind of keep going. This is kind of weird."
Torvald kind of looks up and goes, "Yeah, I'll probably need a drink after that."
Yeah, that would
Sooner.
sound that bad. Sooner rather than later.
All right. So as you continue on, you see a building just off the road up ahead. It looks to be probably the largest building you've ever seen, but in your small town experience, that's not very large at all. What you see is a decrepit, moss-covered chapel standing by the side of the road, shrouded by a tight copse of trees. There's a small, overgrown path that leads from the road to the front door.
Do we go?
I'm down for it. I mean, at this point, it's been a few days, and we haven't seen a single building.
Yeah.
Like I'm fine to go check it out, and we can find hopefully maybe some tools, food,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Torvald pulls out the axe, ready to chop down a door if need be.
Great. So you head off the road, and after a minute, you've gotten close enough to see the large oak chapel doors. They look sturdy, and you don't see anything, at least anything obvious, barring them.
Should we knock?
Yeah.
Cool. I knock on the door, kind of loudly because it's probably a bigger building. So I'm assuming they're like big oak doors.
Yeah. The knock, you hear it echo through the large structure, hollowly on the other side. You wait a moment after the echoes fade, half expecting to hear footsteps, but you don't hear anything. About 5 minutes pass, and it's just utter silence.
I open the door.
The door swings open easily, and silently. It opens into a small vestibule antechamber. There's cubbies and racks for travelers to remove their shoes and their packs. A single pair of boots currently sits on one rack. Otherwise, all of the cubbies are completely empty. The text carved in above the doors on the inside of the vestibule reads, "Rest, weary travelers. Remove your soiled shoes, ease your aching backs, and enter your master's house."
Torvald kind of recoils visibly and turns to Cormac like, the hell?
Yeah, I would agree with the hesitation. So I would say, in case there is someone here, we don't want to be scolded or punished by the church. So let's take off our shoes, but let's just tie them to our packs instead of leaving them here where they could be stolen.
Yeah.
That way we're not being disrespectful, but we can still make sure that because we're walking, right? Boots are very valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Torvald likes the idea.
So take off our shoes and kind of strap them to our packs and then kind of walk around and see. Kind of call out, not too loudly, but not too quiet, like, hello?
Yeah.
Going home.
Just like the echoes of the raps on the door, your voice echoes through the halls and fades without a response. In front of you lie two doors which sit open, leading into the actual chapel hall.
Yeah, go in and kind of check it
Yeah.
out. I think at this point, and Torval, let me know if you are fine with this, is if we don't find anyone, let's just start scrounging in their kitchen, bedroom.
Yeah.
Let's loot the place, essentially.
Yes, absolutely. This shit is ours if no one else is here.
Yeah.
So you walk into the main chapel hall. The large room is quite frankly astronomically larger than any other indoor space you've ever seen. Just that alone makes you feel kind of exposed and puts you on edge right away. Some combination of awe and fear is kind of what you're experiencing. In the large hall, most of the ornaments and the furniture, including the pews on either side, are in a state of decay. The pews are ruined and broken and rotted, and you can hear rodents scurrying through the wreckage of the broken wood and the old mangled cushions. What isn't wrecked and rotten is an immaculate woven runner that stretches from from the start of the room at the end that you're at to the far end where you would expect maybe an altar or something to be. The light is dim, so you can't see super far ahead. You can't see details. What you can see is at the far end of the room, there are the remains of old stained glass windows that seem to have largely broken and fallen into the room. You can kind of see the branches of a fallen tree kind of sticking through from where you're at. You can see that further along in the room, there are some doors, but you'll need to get closer to find exactly what those look like.
Torvald considers a few things, going to inspect the doors closer and or trying to find, is there any visible exits besides where we came in? Besides the doors, like anything open?
Yeah, so here's what you can see. There's nothing open, but after you've walked in a little bit, you can see that there are 3 other potential exits. What I'm going to say is that you entered from the south side, so I'm going to say north is directly ahead. On the northwest wall, so in front of you and to your left, there's a door kind of right at the end of the last pew. Directly to your right on the east wall, there's a door. And then you see what seems to be like a cellar door or a trap door at the north end of the room, kind of to the left of where the altar would be, which kind of looks like it might be a pool or some sort of a bath, but you'll have to get a little bit closer to see exactly what that is.
I would get closer. Is the pool bath? I'm assuming it's for baptism. Is it full of any kind of liquid, blood, water, Mountain Dew?
Yeah, walking closer, you see that the bath is a carved stone bath set into the floor where an altar might otherwise be. There seems to be water in it that is stained a murky, milky red. So thick and hard to see through that you can't see what must only be a few feet down to the bottom.
I turned to Torvald and like, probably no fishing here.
Yeah, Torvald shakes his head and says, like, no, unless we want some poisonous fish.
Yeah. Kind of back away from that. That's kind of gross. Did you want to check out the doors on the sides?
Yeah. Yeah, Torvald can inspect one of them. Torvald goes to inspect one and kind of motions to like stay back in case something happens.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there like a walking stick or some kind of like something I could have as a bhopal weapon of some sort?
You can you can pry a pretty good sized board off of one of the pews, like a leg of one of the pews or something like that.
Yeah, I'll take like a leg off a piece of furniture just for something to make me feel a little better.
Definitely. All right. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Which door are you checking, Torvald?
The northmost one.
Okay. Do you mean the trap door, or the
No.
door on the door on the northwest wall?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the door is unlocked. The door opens into. Get my key here. The door opens into what seems to be like a private bedroom. Okay. Maybe a priest's bedroom or something like that. It's very simple. Modest robes hang in an open doorless wardrobe. It's a small, simple bed. It looks like it's been slept in recently. The blankets are in a state of disarray. There's a small wash basin and just very basic bedroom implements. There's also two doors leading out of here, one to the north and one to the south.
Okay. I'm feeling north.
Sure.
I also have my compass as well. I could check where we're actually headed, but yeah.
The north door is locked.
Okay. South. I mean,
yeah. Before we break down the north door, I guess let's check the south first.
Okay.
The
door opens into what seems to be some sort of a little shrine. There's a small table on which sits a few items. There's a hammered copper basin that sits on the floor just under the table. It's filled with muddy water. And then on the table sits a simple bowl that's partially filled with dirt. And I apologize, I misspoke a second ago. So there's multiple items on the table. There's that item on the table, and there's one on the floor right below it, the bowl filled with the muddy water. So there's a small, simple bowl on the table, and then there's a kind of conspicuously empty space next to the bowl. Like, it's a small table, and the bowl is like really far onto one side. You could even see some spot where like the dust has been disturbed, where something else used to be there.
Is it like rectangular or like oval, like a plate, or is it like thin, like a utensil? Or
It's very hard to tell.
Can Torvald sort of sit down at the chair at the table, try to see if there's any hidden levers or
Yeah, doesn't seem to be anything obvious. There's no chair.
okay.
There's a simple rug in front. It seems like, you know, the priest would probably kneel there. Seems like the items that were on the table seem to have some sort of importance.
Is this a religious? Maybe not. I don't know enough about the religion. Is there any
Yeah,
evidence that this was used recently?
A thin layer of dust sits over everything, but it doesn't appear as if it's been abandoned for incredibly long.
Okay. What are our options here again?
So this was the southern door. So if you're done in this room, there was the locked door, and then back in the main hall, there was the trap door, and then there was the door on the east wall as well.
Before, the trap door I think should be last.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to the door on the east?
Yeah.
And then like the trap door should be last, and then the locked door should be second to last.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Agree.
So the door on the east opens up into a narrow passageway. There's a door immediately to the right of you, but the passageway continues on. You can kind of see that it looks like this is a pathway that loops all the way around a central courtyard. I wish I could show you on this, but I can't. Using the to keep everything recorded, I'm not going to be able to draw you a map, but it basically goes down for about 50 feet or so, then takes a left, goes down another 30 feet, and then takes another left. So there's a central courtyard that it wraps around, and then there's also a row of doors. So if you take those turns and go kind of all the way around that central courtyard, you'll have 3 doors on your left. Now, there's a couple things before that, though. For one, the central courtyard is incredibly overgrown, impossibly overgrown, with vines and thorns so thick that you couldn't even force your way through. They seem to all converge on a central location where it seems like there might be something, actually a small structure or something in there.
In the center of the courtyard?
Yes. And lastly, in alcoves around the passageway that goes around the courtyard, there are a series of 4 statues.
Can we inspect them? What do they look like?
So they're all people. They seem to be statues of people who had some influence or stake in the building of this cathedral or this chapel. 3 of the 4 all look about the same. They have pretty well done features. They all seem to be priests. But the fourth is much newer than the other three and remains mostly unfinished. You can tell that this was supposed to also be a priest. The hands, the feet, and the robes are nearly complete, but the face is a blank slate. It hasn't been carved out at all yet. Several stone cutting tools are actually lying at the feet of the statue. And it seems like someone has taken them and struck long gouges in the feet and legs of the statue. And then a dried red liquid is splashed over those gouges.
Probably just some Kool-Aid.
Probably just the Kool-Aid, yes.
Some communion.
Nothing to see
wine.
here.
Yeah, nothing to see. It's fine.
Okay. So are we gonna ignore that?
Yeah. Do you want to check the rooms first to see if there's like supplies and food?
Yeah. Yeah, we need some food, some supplies.
Okay. So the three rooms are each basically identical. They open up into basically dormitory style rooms that each have a couple of beds and a wash basin. These seem to be like they were set up for travelers who needed a place to stay. They're all in pretty good shape. They appear to have been cleaned recently. They seem to have less dust than everything else, and just don't seem like a bad place at all to spend the night.
Do they lock from the inside?
They do not.
Hmm.
They don't appear to lock at all.
Oh, nice, awesome. Cool. I'd say we just let's look through all the rooms, see if there's anything of value or use, and then Torvald, if you want to explore the courtyard more, I can go with you.
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay.
That's what the kids are saying nowadays, right? Like, let's go or something like that.
Let's
I
get
think that was a couple of years ago.
I know, I'm seeing a lot of it on TikTok. Like, let's go. I'm like, what does that mean? Let's go.
A friend of mine started saying that a couple of years ago, and I was like, I don't know what you're doing, man.
Right.
But yeah, so the rooms. Describe to me how you're checking them. You said you wanted to look through them and make sure there was nothing useful.
I would assume that we just walk in there, kind of glance around. If there's a chest or a trunk, we would look inside. If there's drawers or dressers, we'd probably look through the cabinets. If there's a bed that's high off the ground, we'd look under the bed. Like, just kind of scrounging around. We're not feeling for secret doors or anything. Just general inspection.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So you in the first room, you don't really find anything. There's no chest, no trunk. There's a wardrobe again that doesn't have any doors, that's open and ready to hang clothes on. But it's empty. The second one, though, you'd actually find something interesting. You're kind of tossing the beds a little bit too, kind of looking through them. You mentioned you wanted to look under them. You kind of are looking under one, and you notice, kind of peeking out from the sheet, what looks to be a stain of some kind.
Okay, like red.
Yeah. Yes. It does.
More Kool-Aid, man. These guys are so.
They're
sloppy.
just getting the Kool-Aid everywhere, man. It's crazy.
Splashing everywhere. Is there a lump, like a body type indentation in the bed, as if someone's under the covers?
No, you don't see anything like that.
Oh, okay.
Torvald kind of goes and checks around the sheets and kind of sniffs it a little bit.
You can kind of smell a bit of a coppery scent.
Okay.
Mixing some vodka with that Kool-Aid. That's probably what that is.
Yep, definitely. Maybe some pennies. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, soaking pennies. I think it's a good flavor.
Yeah. Yeah. They have pennies during this time, right?
Absolutely. There's definitely pennies.
Sweet. Good. Okay.
That's all it is.
So that was key.
That's right.
All right. Well, do we want to sleep?
Yeah,
Or
have we checked
Valaz?
all the rooms or
Yeah, the last room doesn't have anything interesting.
yeah, I'd say we each take the rooms on the end because the middle one has that Kool-Aid stain.
Yeah. I'll take which end? What is it?
Do you want
North
to be
and south?
closer to the main room, or do you want to be further from the main room?
I'll be closer to the main room just in case anyone wants to come in and mess with us. I've got the axe.
Cool. Sounds good. I'll take the one at the far end.
All right. Okay. So you pass the night uneventfully. The place creaks quite a bit. You hear the whistling of wind coming through the many holes in the stained glass window. But otherwise, passes completely quietly. As always, add 1 hunger and 1 despair to your character sheets. And I do believe that Connor needs to wrap up around 8:30. So we're going to go for about 45 more minutes.
Sounds good. I'm going to eat a ration actually.
Okay.
Could I get some Torval ask Cormac if he can get a swig of his wine flask?
Oh, that shit's gone. I swigged the entire thing that first night.
Oh no.
That's all gone.
All right. Torval's getting restless about the alcohol. The drunkard.
Yeah.
He's getting the shakes.
What's it called? The delirium tremens or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alcohol shake. Withdrawal.
All right. Great. Okay, cool. So it's the next morning. You can keep looking around here without eating into your full shifts, by the way. Since you've looked at almost everything. You can spend an hour or two continuing your check of the chapel without spending an entire shift.
Torval looks for any signs of some type of misplaced or weirdly shaped stone.
Where specifically?
In the first room that we went in. The room in
the chapel.
Yeah.
Okay. You spend about a half an hour. And you don't find anything. Nothing appears to be really out of place. As best you can tell, at least.
Okay. I don't know. Torval's good. He's like he doesn't think there's anything else left. He's just bummed that we didn't find food.
Well, there's just still that locked door if you want to try to break in to that locked door.
Oh yes, that's true.
That
Right.
actually might be where the pantry is.
Yeah. All right. Torvald brings out the axe. Well, let me see if there's probably the axe.
Mm-hmm.
And tries to chop it down or break off the lock mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With that heavy axe, it barely takes more than a few strikes to break the door open enough to push it open the rest of the way and climb in. This appears to be a storeroom. What you're immediately drawn to the largest thing in the room are several large cuts of freshly cured red meat hanging from a couple of hooks in the center of the room. Easily a few rations worth. It looks very inexpertly butchered. It's kind of a mess and kind of cut up, but it looks like it's been well cured and looks edible.
Anything else?
There's a couple of kind of broken up crates in a corner of the room. Looks like they held grain at one point, but it looks like it's all spoiled.
Cool.
Well,
I
we
mean,
could
we'll
take the
meat, right?
rations. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take the meat.
Okay. I'm going to say that there are, say 2 rations there.
Okay, 1 each.
1 and 1. Yep.
Mhm.
Should we go inspect the courtyard or the trap door?
I don't know about the trap door. It's like not typically the type of thing you explore. We could try. We've got rope. Torvald's like, I'm not going down there. If you want to go down to the trap door, I'll strap some rope on you and feel free, Splunker.
Sure, why not?
Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm gonna start saying it now that you guys.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
ironically.
Oh, and not all the ways. Ironically.
Ironically. Ironically, ironically.
Yeah.
All right. So the trapdoor does seem to be not locked, but like maybe barred or something. Like it opens a little bit, it starts to come up, but it's like there's, something blocking it on the other side.
Do you want to take your axe to it?
Yeah.
Break it down.
Yeah, if you're down.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'll give it a shot.
Again, the axe solves all problems right now. That's what 3 encumbrance slots buys you. You pretty quickly break through the trapdoor. There's a small ladder that descends down about 8 feet or so into what appears to be either a crypt or a cellar.
A cellar.
Ooh, cellars are good. I have a feeling that you and I both need some drink.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should explore.
Just look around. Yeah. What do I find? Any is it just infinite amounts of wine to our heart's content?
If only. If only. All right. So, first thing I should say, it's pitch black down there. Do you want to spend time trying to like make a makeshift torch, or do you want to go ahead into the darkness?
Oh no, I'll make a torch. Oh no, I'm explorative, not stupid. Let's have a torch.
Okay. It takes you about, and you got to get a fire going pretty well. It takes you about 15 minutes or so to make a couple of makeshift torches. But you're able to do it relatively easily with all of the dry, broken furniture. And you get something burning pretty well. So you head down, and like the second that you kind of, jump down to the bottom and start like shining the light of the torch around, you hear a blood-curdling scream.
From down there or from Torval?
From down there, but Torval might also give a blood-curdling scream of his own a second later.
Oh yeah.
When he sees a mostly naked, crazed-looking man throw himself at you from the corner. He carries a jagged knife and is attempting to cut your throat out. So we have entered combat, folks, and it is going to be time to play around with the combat in the Bleakness.
Was this guy
Nice.
lunging at me in the cellar or lunging at Torval up top?
He's lunging at you, Cormac.
Fuck.
I was definitely
Oh
unclear there.
no.
Good thing I got that pew leg.
True.
I got a pew leg and a torch, so basically 2 sticks.
I wish I should have given you the X. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Well, we'll figure out how we do.
All right, Cormac. So I'm gonna have you roll initiative for me. The Bleakness uses party initiative, so everybody's going to kind of go in the same initiative turn, if that makes sense. But you're just gonna roll me a die. If it's odd, you guys go first. If it's even, your enemy attacks first.
Okay, so like a D6 is fine.
Mhm.
3.
All right. So Cormac, you get to go first.
Cool. I would. Is there anything around me that I can grab within arm's reach?
That's a good question. Not really. You're at the entrance here, and there's really nothing directly around you, but you do have your torch, so you've already got something that's a relatively decent weapon.
Yeah, I would then go ahead and after I get my nerves back from the scream, I would turn back towards the guy that's lunging out at me and kind of like duck and full swing both the table leg and the torch kind of like into his gut or his side.
All right, sounds good. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll a d20. You're using improvised weapons, so you're going to take a -1 penalty on the roll. And let me know what you got.
Okay. Oh, 17.
All right.
-1,
So 16, that's definitely good enough to hit. So human targets have a DC of 12. So you need at least a 12 to successfully hit a human target. So you definitely got that. So we're going to see what happens. You connect with the crazed man and you injure him for sure, at least to some extent. So we're going to see what the damage is. You want to roll a 10-sided die for me?
D10 coming up.
So what I'm doing for the audience here is now I'm having Tommy roll on the human harm chart. So this is going to tell us what the result of this injury is.
2.
All right. So you managed to just barely nick him and give him a scrape across the stomach. He's bleeding a little bit, but it's really tis but a scratch. And he's still coming at you pretty aggressively. However, it is still the party's initiative, so Torval does get to act.
Sweet. I'm going to. Am I even in range right now?
Not to attack. You'd have to climb down the ladder first.
Okay. So I climb down the ladder.
Okay. All right. So Torval's now down there as well. So you've got a chance that you could be the one attacked as well. And it's going to go now to the madman. All right. This unknown assailant is going to continue his initial plan of attacking Cormac. So he is going to swing his knife at you. He does, in fact, connect with a roll of 12. All right. So the blade swings at you. And... oh,
Sudden death.
I am sorry, Cormac. The blade, the strike is true, and the blade lodges right in the side of your neck. Your carotid artery has been cut, and you bleed out almost immediately. It's just a matter of seconds. Torval, you watch as your traveling companion of the past week, and at least to a certain extent, most of your lifelong companion, in your small village, as he has at least apparently taken a death blow directly in front of you. What do you do?
I instantly get my axe and chop this guy's head off.
All right. Well, you're going to have to roll a d20 to see if you succeed.
All right, dice. That will be a 16.
All right. Well, that is a hit. So let's see what that does. Just to give everybody, the audience, a little bit of information here. On the human harm chart, on the D10 roll, 2 of them are essentially death blows. So there's about a 1 in 5 chance when you're hit with an attack that it's going to kill you. There's then a few that are mechanically don't matter. They're scrapes, scratches, things like that. Most of the results are things that are not life-threatening, but will make your life a little bit worse. All right. So, Connor, Torvald's attack strikes true, but not as well as you would have liked it to. You get him pretty good in the leg. It's in a spot where, any rapid movement is going to make him lose blood quickly. So I'm just going to say, mechanically speaking, he's going to take an extra harm each time he takes strenuous action. So strenuous action would include attacking. So he's going to have some choices to make, and we'll have to see what his frame of mind is when the initiative comes back to him. Which it obviously, because it's just the 2 of you now, it goes right back to him. And I just realized we made a mistake. I was supposed to have you roll initiative again right after Cormac took his death blow. But since you already acted, I think that's fine. We're going to have the assailant act now. You're standing in front of him and the way out, so he doesn't really have much of a choice at this point but to attack you, which he will try to do. He is going to take a harm from his attack, though, because of the bleeding leg wound that you gave him. So he does swing his knife at you, and it does connect. Ooh. You start to dodge out of the way, Torvald, and it catches the side of your head, slicing your ear off cleanly. Not the worst thing that could have happened, but definitely unpleasant. You scream in pain, clutching the side of your head. This loss of a part of your body is going to give you +1 to spare. That's the only mechanical effect, but you are now, from a physical description at least, missing one of your ears. And now we're going to see what the harm that this attacker receives from his attack. Cool. So the bleeding is bad enough that it gives him some despair, but it's not enough to put him down quite yet. He's still up and fighting. So we're gonna go to initiative again. Connor, you want to roll any dice? You get to act on an odd roll, and he will act on an even roll.
Okay. 2.
2. All right. He acts. His leg is bleeding extremely badly at this point. But he, again, you're still standing there blocking the way out, so he doesn't really see any choice. His eyes make him look like a caged animal. They're darting back and forth. He's trying to find a way out. So he launches kind of at you this time, but it feels less like he's trying to hurt you and more this time that he's trying to get you out of the way so he can scramble up the ladder. So he shoves you. He doesn't actually attack you with the knife. But he's clearly weak from the bleeding, and he's really unable to do much of anything. Like, he reaches up and kind of shoves at you, but it doesn't even really push you out of the way. He's trying to get past you at this point. He's kind of right next to you more than in front of you. And it is your turn to act.
Okay. Do I have my torch still?
You do.
Can I cauterize Cormac's wound?
Cormac has passed away.
Okay, then I'll cauterize my own wound.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, you
right on my ear.
hold it up and it burns the side of your head, but it does stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Doing this, you have let this unknown assailant get past you. He has reached the top of the ladder right about then. Do you choose to pursue?
No.
Okay. So as you survey the aftermath of the quick but deadly battle, you see Cormac's lifeless body in front of you in a pool of his own blood. And further in the room, you see now that your eyes have adjusted a little bit to the still half darkness, a pretty horrifying sight. The crypt contains just strewn gore further in. It looks as if the man that was here had ripped all of the bones and sinew out of what you could only assume was once a person or maybe even several people. Most of the meat is gone. It doesn't seem to be down here anymore. But the bones and sinew have been lashed together to form a large shrine in the corner. Above the shrine are drawings in blood that depict strange kind of humanoid forms with long limbs and fractal horns rising above them. On the shrine is an item. Let's see what you find. So on the shrine, there is a small pouch.
Torvald picks it up and empties the contents into his hand.
It contains 2 finger bones.
Nice.
They're both ancient. You feel like the smallest amount of pressure would turn them into dust.
Okay. Torvald takes them over to Cormac and feeds them to.
All right. Are you going to feed both of them to Cormac?
No, just one.
Just one? All right. So like you kind of kind of crush it over his mouth and like the dust goes into his mouth and kind of almost dissolves onto him. But it doesn't seem to have any effect, unfortunately. It seems like despite your best efforts, your traveling companion is still in fact deceased.
Okay.
Worth a shot though.
Yeah, Torvald kind of tries to. He just he doesn't have any. I mean, he puts the things in his backpack. I guess. Okay. Is that going to take him an encumbrance slot?
No, it's so tiny.
Okay.
It doesn't do that.
Okay.
All right. So climbing out of the crypt, this whole experience has caused quite a bit of trauma. You've gained +2 despair.
Okay.
Did you plan on heading back to the road, or what is your plan for the remainder of the day? You still have 2 full shifts.
Explore the rest of this place.
Okay. The only place inside that you haven't really looked at yet is the courtyard, which is so choked with vines and weeds that you really can't see in.
Can I attempt to burn the weeds and vines with a torch?
Yeah,
it's even still lit.
it's, let's see, it's not dry enough to burn. At least not without some added fuel.
Okay. Yeah. Torvald's going to head back probably to the road.
All right. Okay. Well, that was an eventful outing. So for the audience, that was the first dungeon in the Bleakness. There are several more. These serve as little set pieces that kind of break the pace a little bit. All right. Okay, back to our encounters. All right. Okay, that doesn't happen yet. And all right. You arrive back on the road. You walk for most of the day, in fact, without anything new or specifically interesting happening. But you see a figure ahead towards the end of the day. They seem to be kneeling in the center of the road.
Torvald approaches and kind of shouts out to them, who goes there?
The figure does not respond, but it looks to be a priest.
Torvald approaches again and says, "Priest, what are you doing here?"
The priest is kneeling facing south. As you approach, they raise their eyes to meet yours, and their lips curl in a joyous smile. Welcome, esteemed traveler. You see the man is holding a simple bronze blade. He'd been holding it in his hands. Here, let me turn my camera on. In his hands, kind of against his chest like this. He was staring down at it. As you approach, he raises his eyes up, he smiles, greets you. You see him bring the blade up and hold it up as if showing it to you before bringing it down and cutting his own throat. As the blood runs down and he loses his last breaths, he holds the blade, holding the actual blade in his hand and offering you the handle.
Torvald comes up to him and grabs the blade from him and kind of grabs it and then jumps back away.
After a few seconds, the priest collapses.
Okay.
The blade feels warm and kind of special. It feels like it has a certain amount of energy in it as you hold it, despite the horrifying display that you just witnessed. You know that this blade is meant for only one thing. It's meant to kill. And you instinctively know that doing so will provide you with something. You're not sure what.
Okay. Torvald kind of stares at the blade for a second and decides to just like prick his finger with it.
Nothing really happens from that.
Okay.
but you kind of just that small act of bloodshed kind of fills you with a little bit of, dare I say, joy, but just a tiny taste.
Okay. Torvald kind of like feels so lost at this point that he doesn't even care, and he kind of just faces north along the road, pulls out his compass to make sure he's facing the right direction after seeing this priest kill himself, and kind of considers, like, looks back over towards the dungeon, and back at the road, down at the blade, and then goes towards the dungeon.
Going south. All right. Okay.
So, yep, I start to walk south along the road.
All right. I think this is probably a perfect time to call the session. I think that we've given a good overview of what it's like to play the Bleakness. If my camera would only stop lagging out, that would be wonderful. Well, thank you too for playing. As I'm sure our audience can see, combat is very deadly. I think that, oh, you're muted, Tommy. I do think that is a record for how fast someone has died in the Bleakness.
Yeah.
You went head first into the cellar without a weapon. I mean,
That's
you
right.
kind of had a weapon, but not like an axe.
I mean, if I would have gotten a 9 or 10, could I have still like have killed him with those weapons, essentially?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, so luck of the dice. Weapons do help though, but like what I said earlier was existing is hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean the thing too is, like, you know, you guys burned a lot of despair early there. Like you didn't get very far for how high despair you had. So to talk a little bit about how despair works in the Bleakness and kind of how the game ramps. The game feels very easy and a little bit empty at first, I find. The first, like, I would say usually 2 hours or so of play, which makes it hard to intro people to it. Because, like, you know, when you're watching the first half of our session today, it's like, oh, okay, you saw some interesting stuff or some weird stuff on the road. All right, you know what? Not much danger happening. The tension is all about those resources, the hunger and the despair. And the thing about despair is, aside from things like, you know, like the wine flask, there's very, very few ways to lower it, aside from finding a safe place to rest and recuperate, which are villages. So villages are rolled randomly. Like, all of this stuff is random when it happens. So you only have a certain number of villages that are possible to roll. These are kind of checkpoints. And it's also the only point when you can bring back players who died. So if we'd reached a village, Tommy could have rolled a new character and rejoined the party. These are like these checkpoints. So the Bleakness exists kind of with these checkpoints. And if everybody dies before the next checkpoint, game's over. Like, that's the end of it. So it's all about figuring out how to balance keeping your resources okay with actually progressing. Because every time that you get a roll, there's a chance that you are going to get a village. So, you know, you kind of have to keep going. You have to keep putting one foot in front of the next, and keep traveling down the road and progressing, while making sure that you're not starving or you're, you know, not pushing yourself too hard. So that tension really does ratchet up, especially when stuff like this happens that drives your despair up. Like, if Torvald had kept going, the next like 2 or 3 days, as his despair crept up, would start to get weird. Stuff starts changing. Things start happening. More and more of the horror elements start coming out the higher your despair gets. And in
Yeah.
terms of mechanics, like that starts to mean like rolling on the nightmare chart every night, every time they're resting and stuff like that.
Mm.
And the last thing that's interesting is, the other thing that to note is the entropy chart. So they did roll one entropy. The entropy is if villages are like save spots, then entropies are your progress in the game as a whole. It's like your percentage completion. Entropies are really how you measure how far along in the total scheme of the bleakness you are. Once you reach the last entropy, the game's over. So they'd gotten the first entropy, which was where the weather changes and it becomes unseasonably cold, and now it's snowing all the time. So you guys got the first one there, but never reached your first village, never got that chance to reset your resources.
The exact opposite of when I actually played it the first time.
Yeah. And to be honest, of all the groups I've ran through it, I think I've ran it about 8 times now, somewhere in that range. And probably half of them have gotten like 3 villages in the first session, like really fast, which is horrible for later in your game because you're not going to have those opportunities.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, thanks you two for being great sports and having some fun with me.
Of course.
And I really appreciate all our live viewers and the people that'll be watching this later on. So thank you, everybody. And all fun stuff. Looking forward to seeing more adventures in the bleakness.
It was our pleasure.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks guys.
Thank you.